attendance. David Singer.
Present.
Butch Hawkins, present. Mayor said she was going to be absent. Chief Strahan.
Here.
Liz Gilman. She's probably at the end of the meeting. Carol Collins. Here. David Mascaratello.
Here.
Present. Steve Draculich said he was not going to be here. Gene Wall.
Here.
Present. Amy McMahon.
Here.
Present. Jen Stromston.
Here.
Present. And Jim Wynn.
Here.
We have a quorum. Helps.
Here.
George Vanderlinder's here. Fernando? Thought I saw Fernando.
Right here.
Thank you. Chief Haig. No. Peter MacGyver.
Saying
Present.
there should be.
Present. And Greg Diefendorf.
Here.
Present. Okay. Ed Jarvis. Neil Joyce is present. Yes. Katrina is present.
Hello. Yes.
Adam is present.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the prior meeting minutes. Peter mailed them out.
So moved.
Second.
Second by who's?
Jim Wynn.
Oh, Jim Wynn seconded. Okay. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. To the list. David Singer.
Approve.
Approved. Butch Hawkins, approved. Chief Strahan,
Approved.
approved. Carol Collins, approved. Thank you. David M.
Approve.
Gene Wall,
Approve.
thank you. Amy McMahon
Approve.
and Jen.
Abstain.
Abstain, was not there. Okay. And Jim Wynn.
Approved.
Thank you very much. Moving right along.
Chairman,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can
Go
you,
ahead.
can you change mine to abstain, please? I was
Certainly.
not at that meeting.
Yeah, you weren't there. Correct. Chief abstain. Thank you for that. Okay, budget updates, expenditures to date. Neil Joyce.
Butch, I don't really have anything new to report. The last information was current as of March 24th. We'd spent just shy of $2.9 million. In the interim between that meeting and this one, recently we just approved 2 rental invoices for the temporary offices that are in the process of being paid. And I would imagine we will get another bill from Pacheco Ross that we will process upon receipt. So really nothing new, status quo, still holding at 18 million. No other numbers have changed.
Okay. Any members have any questions of Neil on the budget? Okay, very good. Okay, the next item up is update on the scheduling for the ZBA and planning board submittals. Katrina, I think we can rely on you for that.
Thank you, Butch. And I do want to just note that depending on how long the meeting runs today, I'll have to get off at about 5:45 just to alert you ahead of time. And one of our team members from Tecton, we have Shannon, joined us on the call.
Okay.
So regarding the zoning and planning board approvals and timeline relative to the project, we are looking at getting a submission in for the ZBA early next week. I believe 19th is the deadline for a meeting in May. So we are on board and on track for doing so, getting that submission into the city early next week. That should not be slowing any part of the production down. We are going to keep moving forward with that. And there are other parts of that. Do you want me to go ahead and about the other parts of the project and schedule?
Sure, you can go right into update on the design phase because it dovetails right into it.
Okay. So with that being said, we are also working with Eversource to get the incentive package set up, meet with them in short order, and look at having their input on items that aren't going to affect the overall, let's say, push that we've made on the project. You know, we've already designed incredible systems to go on the building in terms of HVAC. We've already got a thicker roof insulation. We're looking for the energy modeler to tell us where we can improve things possibly. So that's going to dovetail right into our process of moving into construction documents, which is the next phase. And that's where we will be in a few weeks. We will be looking at getting the package out to the estimator. I know this is a little bit further along or further down the calendar than when we wanted to at the last meeting. I anticipate that we get the package out in the second week of May to the estimator, and it will come back to us at the end of May. We will have a little bit of time after that to make any kind of adjustments to the package so that we can get the package out on the street for bidding before July 1st. So we're looking mid-June for that bid phase to start. And that is a 6-week bid phase, is my understanding from discussion with Neil as well. Then when those bids come in, there's the process of reviewing all of the different parts. We anticipate at this point in August 15th contract award date, and then starting construction in September. Because of the detailing that we've done all along, and particularly after the last estimate was done in December, January, we've simplified the design, we've simplified the building in key ways that we think has shortened the construction time frame. I think early on in our discussions in the committee, we were anticipating maybe a 14 to 16 month construction time frame. We think with the changes that we've made over time that we're more at a 12 to 13 month construction time phase. And again, this will hopefully bear out in the estimate that we're going to be getting soon. And that will help us stay within the window of the temporary facility rental and occupation. We know the end result is really getting them out of the temporary and into the permanent station properly. We know that we started or the occupation of temporary started in, I believe, September of last year. So we had a regular 22-month window and then a few months for possible lengthening for the lease on the temporary. So the whole goal for the design team is really push, 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 but we need to get those critical design elements worked out, all of the detailing. We're getting close and working with the energy modeler on where we can do these incremental upgrades potentially to get a better energy use intensity. I want to use the right term. Carol's been very helpful working with us in Energy Source, and so is the chief. Not Energy Source, Eversource. They've been very helpful in helping the design team come to the conclusion of which path we're using with Eversource to achieve these goals.
Thank you. So this is a monumental amount of work between getting into the ZBA, getting approval from them to get anything that they require to get that information into the contracts for going out to bid later with Katrina and Neil, along with the design pieces, along with Eversource and what they're doing on the property to move some poles. I was down there for the meeting this morning. And and trying to keep to the timeline. So that's the important key for us, try to keep to the timeline and get through all these various processes. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask Katrina or Neil, you know, anything you might have. It's a lot of work we're trying to, you know, knit together right now so that it kind of smooths very fluidly forward. We had a meeting earlier this week to talk about that with Neil and Katrina, the chief, and try to nail down some of this information and get it going. And David Singer was helpful in helping out with providing an understanding for the process for the ZBA and the planning board. So I think we're in the last week, we've really firmed up an awful lot of this so that we can now really kind of set a template that we can try to live with and work with and meet the needs for the end result here. So if you have any questions of Neil, it's a good time to ask about that piece of it. No? Okay. Very much, Katrina. Okay, the next item on the list is to try to nail down discussion on the project alternate list. I know the chief maybe should be the presenter and weigh in on, because there's kind of different tracks at work here, the city council track and the building committee track, and try to nail down our list of alternates and maybe even vote on them so that we can identify them at this time.
Sure. So the outstanding things that I believe that we haven't addressed are the, and I'll just need confirmation from the rest of the committee on this, is a metal roof, is the garage, outbuilding garage in the back, and then some, most of the other alternatives that we've listed, were successful in getting it into a place by making the changes that we made the last round of changes to the building. So I think that gave us back the floor, that gave us back the museum. Couple other items from, there's a drive out in the community to do fundraising activities. Fundraising activities, in my mind, are for things that would enhance the building, either from a community standpoint or from a firefighter functionality standpoint. The building itself, obviously, we're in the final phases of design, and so even if we had more money to put at it, those wouldn't have happened, which we already took care of, like I said, with the museum. So when I met with the city council, from a fundraising standpoint, there was the memorial that was never in the project from day one. There is the things within the museum itself. So we have all kinds of stuff that's going to go in the museum, and we have a beautiful building that we're going to put in the museum. And we're going to have some cases in the museum. But the stuff that stands out, like in the middle of the floor that needs to be put in glass cases or things like that, not necessarily thinking that that's going to be part of the budget. So that's another avenue. And the last one was the patio that was removed early on within one of the first phases. And so that's where, if there's a fundraising activity, that's where my opinion, and it's just mine, feel free to offer other opinions, but I think that that's where the fundraising activity should go. I think the commissioner said we're on two different tracks for funding, right? We're on the tracks for the stuff that we have to have within the building, and then the add-on stuff later. But the only things that I think of right now that from a alternative standpoint is the roof is still an alternative, and the back garage is an alternative. Did I miss any? Because I think we covered everything else.
I just want to, I just kind of want to make a pitch, because once we establish the list, that's the order in which they have to be taken if there's money available. And so I just want to make a pitch to have the garage to be the number one item. And my rationale for that is the fire station is coming from a two-story building and a cellar, or a three-story building, which they had a lot of storage. And they're going to a building now that's sitting on a slab with very little storage. And if they don't have additional storage planned and as a primary item, it might not get funded. And I think that is, well, the roof is important. I think the roof that they're putting on will be adequate for a time being. And it certainly should be upgraded at some point to the metal piece. But I think the storage piece is really important. And maybe the chief can chime in if he thinks so or he doesn't think so. But I just see fire service has a lot of equipment, and going forward, they're going to have a lot of equipment, and not to have additional storage to me would be remiss on our part not to recognize that and sort of put that forward as a number one item. But I'd ask the chief to weigh in on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for asking me that. So I've gone back and forth. In earlier meetings, I said how important the metal roof is. And then after talking with people in the construction field and some experts, they've alleviated some of the concerns I had about not having the metal roof and having the commercial asphalt shingle. I think we all have to be realistic that is going to be, like the chairman said, a limited time. If I could, I would echo what the chairman said and put the out garage as the priority. We do have a lot of equipment. Right now, the plan is for, some of the, the pickup and some other things to be either real tight in the station, or they may even have to go outside. So I echo that.
Yes, David?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For purposes of discussion with the council, can anyone recall what the cost of those two alternates might be in addition to the budget?
I will try looking that up unless somebody has it handy.
Okay. I think the councilors just want to know, even though everything's up in the air.
Right.
Thank you. So the next meeting for the council is the 26th of April.
Okay. That's the ad hoc meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to tell them what the choices are and
Sure.
the cost. Also, I agree with you on the garage being a first priority. You want discussion first? Do you want me to make a motion?
Yeah. Katrina, did you have something? And I saw Peter's hand up too.
Yes, I was looking at the latest version of our estimate from January, and the outbuilding at that time was estimated at $205,522. And I know that in subsequent discussions, we've perhaps increased the size since then, but I want to double check those things. The metal roofing was listed at $131,866, and there's no change in size to that.
Thank you.
Peter?
I know we'd gone back and forth with size of the outbuilding, so I didn't know if we had come to a conclusion on that. We had talked about a 2-bay or 3-bay. Just sizing was my only question.
Do we need to figure that out now, or do we just need to have the priorities?
It's the priorities, is my understanding.
Chief?
So if I can, just for the public that's watching, because this has been a question that's been posed to me a couple times from people that are in the construction field outside of municipal government. And that is why do we have to set a priority list and go by the priority versus taking what's cheaper and being able to pick and choose. And so we've discussed this at previous meetings, but I just wanted to highlight for the public again that, and Neil can correct me if I'm wrong, if I say this wrong, but our priorities have to be listed in order. And if funding becomes available, you have to take them in order. That's the way municipal bids work. That's the way municipal contracts. Yes, you may be able to do that out in another field, but for municipal procurement rules, that's what you have to do. And I think it's important that that just be said one more time because that has been brought to my attention a couple times by the public.
Right. Is that chapter 149, Neil? Is that what we're operating under?
It is the bidding statutes, chapter 149, section 44 that govern that, and it is correct. They must be taken, they must be listed and must be taken in the order that they are listed at the time of the bid.
Any further discussion on that list?
Happy to make a motion. Okay.
Go right ahead.
I move that that for our alternate list, that we put on that list the outbuilding as the number 1 alternate and the metal roof as the number 2 alternate. I need a second.
Second. We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Dean seconds it. Okay. Any further discussion on the alternate list?
I would like to ask, and I don't mean to put Katrina on the spot here, but I would just like to ask Katrina, are we missing anything?
You're muted.
Thank you. In terms of the alternates, I do not believe so. The other alternates that we had, as the chief said, was the epoxy flooring of the bay, the museum. The only other one that was on the list in January was turnout gear lockers. I think that's been resolved in terms of what will get reused in that space for the time being, and the room doesn't get completely filled up with new lockers at this time.
I would like to then make a modification to the list and add to the last of the list the gear lockers back. The current gear lockers we have are they're about 15 years old. They're still in good shape. However, they're very narrow, and so any improvements, whether it's widening the lockers or providing safety locks, small equipment for the firefighters, I would just like to have lockers listed as an alternative, if that's possible.
Hey, David, would you like to amend your motion?
Yeah, but I'd like a cost. Can somebody tell me what the cost of that would be, please?
Yes, in the January estimate, the turnout gear lockers were listed as just under $60,000.
Gene, I amended the motion. Do you mind if I amended to add the gear lockers as a 3rd alternate?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
If they is that intended to be a 3rd alternate? Or
Yes.
do you want to change the order?
Oh, that's a good question.
Third alternate, 3rd in the list.
3rd?
That's 3rd.
Yep.
That's what I heard.
Or-
So the motion is to have three items on the alternate list. The first would be the outbuilding, which we call a garage. The second would be the metal roof, and the third would be the gear lockers. And Gene seconded that.
Any further discussion on?
Looks like
Yes,
Carol.
Peter. And Carol, sorry, Peter?
The epoxy floor, Katrina, did you just say that that's still an alternate, or I thought that was restored?
That was restored.
Okay.
Carol?
Well, I guess I should have brought this up sooner, but I was wondering, it doesn't, we're not penalized at all by making it, having more add alternates, is my understanding. So I know the chief was talking earlier about items that might be fundraising items, but I was wondering if, depending on how things go, we don't have the new estimate yet. Does it make sense to try to add as much as into that list, since it's not going to be taken unless there's money anyway. But we could maybe squeeze in something else that doesn't have to be fundraised for.
Chief, I think, the ad hoc committee is maybe working on those other things, correct?
Yeah, I see what Carol is saying in regards to having almost a wish list, if you will.
Wish list, that's exactly it. Yep.
Um, yeah, I'll leave that up to the committee to decide how they want to approach that. I've always advocated though, to the taxpayers, when we go to a capital expenditure, we ask for so much for a project. And if we don't spend it, I just don't want to say that we're gonna spend money for the sake of spending money. If that makes sense.
Not at all. I just thought for things that you're going to need anyway. But I'll stop talking.
I agree with the sentiment of it, absolutely. And I think absolutely we could put down the memorial as an alternate as well.
All right, David. How do you feel about amending your motion?
I don't have a problem with making a wish list, but I'm very sensitive to what the chief is saying, that, let's say everything comes in at the original 10 million and, and we're asking, I just want to be careful that, if we come in under and these other things can be dealt with by fundraising, then it costs the taxpayers less money and then we're being prudent. So I just want that to be the message of what we're doing. It doesn't mean we can't schematically make a wish list, but I think what would end up happening if a miracle occurred and everything was really less expensive than we thought, and we went into the alternate list, I would remind everyone, and I know the chief would be okay with it, that we may not go to the end of our alternate list, even though there's enough money. So all we're doing today is a procedural act of creating an alternate list. Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, so that by statute it's there. But there'll be another day of reckoning about whether we're going to spend the money if we come into a windfall. So do people want to go through that exercise, or should we just stop at where we're at? Again, Carol, good suggestion. Has nothing to do with your suggestion. It's a great suggestion. Nothing to do with that. But we're going to have this discussion down the road if we get so lucky. Doubt that we will, but if we do. So anybody else have any?
David, I just have one comment. I want to make sure the committee understands that all of these alternates are not included in the base bid of the contract. They are additive in scope.
Right, but if we were to have an extra $500,000 to spend, and we could spend it on things, and we don't list the patio or the memorial, are we not allowed then to put that into the budget at that time?
The variance there, David, would be we can always add scope through the change order process, but that becomes a negotiated price. It's not something that we get at bid time based on a fixed scope. Do you understand? At any point in the time, at the owner's request, we can add scope to the project and ask the contractor to provide us with a proposal, but we're negotiating with one party as opposed to competitive bidding.
Right, so we're not foreclosed from doing it.
That's
but
correct.
We lose the benefit of a package bid.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Looks like Katrina wants a. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Yes,
I didn't see her. Where's?
No, thank you, David and Chairman. I just also want to bring up the point about the alternates, that each one of these items that we've already discussed is a discrete package. For example, the outbuilding and garage, the entire package of that will be bid out. The description of it will be written. The same with the metal roof. It's a discrete thing. There's no detailing that needs to be done for it at this time. when we start adding the memorial area or whatever it is, there would need to be detailing, and that would put more design work on our plate than what currently has been asked to do. So I want to remind the committee that addition of this type of alternate, whether it's the patio or the cases in the museum. I mean, maybe the cases are not too difficult because those are standalone items, just like the lockers. But I would caution everyone to think about it as we need to have something that's very discreetly described to be able to have a number upon it.
Can I ask a question? How the removal of the furnishings, does that come into play with alternates as well?
No, Chief, that's a separate package. The owner would contract directly with the furniture vendor to provide those pieces. So it has nothing to do with the construction budget, and it's funded through different parties and managed by us at the end of the construction process.
That's a good question, Chief. I mean, this is a personal feeling unless somebody else objects, but while I commend Carol for her insightful suggestion, I would say don't change the motion. Leave it as it is, unless one of the firemen or all the firemen want to protest. But I think we leave it as it is, and then if we're lucky enough at the end, we have much smaller negotiations to do, and so does that work? If you agree, don't object, don't say anything. But if you don't agree, please say something.
Just remind us of what the amended motion was.
The motion as amended is to have an alternative list as follows. We have the garage or the outbuilding as the number 1 alternate. We have the metal roof as the number 2 alternate, and we have the gear lockers as the number 3 alternate, but we are adding no other alternates at this time. So I'm not adding, per the suggestion of Carol, to the alternate list in my motion. And I think Gene seconded that as amended.
Right.
So
is there any?
We need an amendment if somebody wants to add to it. I'm not going to go any further than that.
Right. So is there any further discussion on the amended motion for the 3 items as listed? Okay. All those in favor, starting with David Singer.
Aye.
Aye. Butch is aye. Chief?
Aye.
Aye. Carol?
I
Aye. David M?
Yes.
Thank you. Jean Wall?
Yes.
Thank you. Amy?
Aye.
Aye. Jen?
Aye.
And Jim Nguyen.
Aye.
Okay, we established an alternate list. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the list would be a discussion for approval of interior platelets, textures, colors, etc. Is that Katrina or Shannon or both?
I will ask Shannon to make the presentation of what was shown to the committee, I believe 3 weeks ago now, in person. And I thank everyone who was able to attend that meeting in person and give their input. It was a very fruitful discussion, and I know we're still getting a couple of tweaks in there that I think aren't necessarily going to change what the voting is about today. But I'll let Shannon talk about that.
Thank you. And I just want to say, I want to apologize for the barrage of materials I've sent out to committee members over the last week on this. And also say that the hardboard, I believe, is prepared and will be delivered and maybe the first of next week to the temporary fire station. So they'll actually see the hardboard, but the other materials have been sent out as projected for the project. So Shannon Hickey of Tecton Architects will speak next.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm assuming when we say hardboard, are we talking about, Katrina, are we talking about the board that that we have?
Yes. Yes.
I was gonna say, I have it here
Well,
in the phone room with me.
And
I-
Shannon, we may ask you at some point to lift it up and show some of the pieces so that the members who have seen the digital representation that the chairman has forwarded this week, they can also see a physical representation. I know that photos or putting something on the computer is often different from the real thing, and with the cameras here, you might be able to see a little more about the material.
Yep. No, of course. And I know I just received an email that there was a discussion about some changes. So Katrina, feel free to bring that up as we're kind of going through. Let me see if I can successfully share my screen. All right.
We can see your email.
Good. Oh, take me there.
Did Butch send you that picture?
Yeah.
Oh, 1 minute. Let me see if I can. So you guys can see my email?
Yeah.
No, we can
now
see we can
your-
see your beach scene.
Yeah.
Oh, I was confused. I was like, what picture is in my email? Then I got concerned. Okay. Don't
beach
do
You can
this.
see the board.
Looks like you're in it.
Everybody wanted to be at the beach.
Oh, I want to be at the beach too. Okay. So we will start with these are the digital boards. I believe everyone had received this. So we will start with the top. The epoxy flooring that will be in the bays, and then go throughout the turnout gear, and I believe it is in turnout gear. It goes throughout the base, turnout gear, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, Katrina, it's the wet area.
Yes, the decon laundry area.
Okay, perfect. So the field color would be this gray right here. It's called concrete gray. I can grab the physical sample if you'd like. We're proposing doing, and we can change this. Of course, right now we can change any of these colors if another one wants to be proposed. We are going to use the yellow as the striping, and then proposing using the red as the box that would be underneath any of the trucks. So those are those samples, and let me grab the physical one. And if my notes are correct, we had discussed doing a medium gray on it. I think everyone had liked that. This is the gray. If you can get a good look at that, we have the yellow. And then the red. Oh, that's not coming out good. It's not as dark. I'm trying to get the light to hit it right. It's not as dark as what's showing up here.
If you hold it back near you, like on your shoulder, maybe, and just tip it back. There you go. That's a little bit brighter. There you go.
There you go.
Perfect. That is the red. For the base, and then moving over to the rubber flooring. I believe we had shown the fitness rubber flooring as having a red fleck, but then there were also some discussions. We can use a blue fleck, we can use a green fleck. Wanted to get everyone's opinions on what they'd really like to see in that exercise room for the fitness flooring. This is a pretty thick rubber flooring. This is an example of it. We're going to do a 1/2 inch. So for those that are going to be doing cleans, deadlifts, any type of CrossFit workout or stretching, it's going to be able to handle the impact of that. Then we have our static dissipative tile. So just be really in mechanical, or not mechanical, but an IT room. Just a gray. We have the 3 cork rubber flooring that is going to be going in the training room. I know we had discussed trying to get a green in there. We had proposed a red in the beginning, but we thought because this room is going to be used by the community as well, it would be nice to bring in a different color. So we did look at the green. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very nice green. It was a very primary elementary school color green, so we thought that wasn't very appropriate for here. So we got 3 colors. This is the first one. I can really get this to work.
Does that have a fleck in it?
So the fleck that you see is the cork in it. So the color that you see on the screen, the color here on the screen is true to what the physical sample is. So this one I'm not too worried about really showing you, but that fleck in there, that's actually the small pieces of cork in there. And it also helps with a great slip resistance.
Anna, can you enlarge the image on the screen?
Sure.
Oh, thank you.
So there we go. That little fleck that you see in here, it's got a little bit of a grit to it. That is the cork that is within there. I did look up, so with someone who wanted to know a little bit more about the maintenance. So with this being cork, you can do a welded seam or a non-welded seam. The seams will not pop up, and just for a day-to-day, a weekly maintenance, all it needs is either sweeping or a vacuum, or it really, as long as you're getting if anyone's coming in there with boots or snow, salt, just really getting it up. We don't want to leave it there for a month or a week. It's just your typical maintenance. And then if you want to use a damp mop, you can on this floor. You have to spray it down or anything. Let's move on. Just the walk-off mat in the vestibule. This is not going to be recessed. We had discussed that in our last meeting. A change from our last meeting was we were proposing doing a gray and green carpet within the bunk rooms. The chief had brought up that he'd like to see something a little more durable, so we're proposing doing a wood LVT. We've used this LVT. LVT is it stands for luxury vinyl tile. We've used this product in large corporate offices. Recently, I just used this product about a year ago in a large bank. It's the entire entryway of the bank. It was put down. It was gorgeous. It looks really great.
We've also used this in bunk rooms and office areas as well.
Let me see if I can get this. Oh, this is really hard.
Yeah, if you lean it, tilt it back. There you go.
Yeah.
Right there.
A little bit of an idea, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so and with this you can actually, I don't know if you can hear it, but you can actually feel it's not flat. You can feel kind of the graining that's in it. This is one of the many luxury vinyl tiles that it looks very real. It will add a nice warmth to those bunk rooms. The other two carpet tiles right here, that these stayed the same from our previous meeting. Using these in the admin waiting area and the bullpen, and then in the private offices. So we were thinking of using both the left and right, a combination of those within the open offices within the bullpen and the admin area, and then just using the gray within the closed offices. The next one is the two porcelain tiles. So the first one, floor tile 1, would be, it's a 12 by 24, and we're using it in the public corridor, the corridor where we discussed having the large graphic on the right hand side leading into the museum. So this darker tile would lead into the museum, and then to help with wayfinding in specific areas in that hallway, we will integrate the lighter tile to help you lead you down that hallway to the museum and kind of break up this dark tile a little bit. The dark tile would also continue throughout that bunk corridor before you enter into the bunk rooms. It'd be in that bunk corridor where your lockers are. And then we were proposing continuing this darker tile into using the darker tile and or the lighter tile. Right now, I think we were showing the lighter tile in the bathroom and then in the day room, although Katrina, there was some discussion on possible change of that.
And on note of that change, Shannon, so there's a change proposed by the firemen to go to a floor without grout lines in those spaces to increase the cleanability of these spaces. Something else I'd like to mention is that we could also take a look in using a larger tile size to reduce the amount of grout lines in that same exact tile color that we've already proposed that you've seen that you guys like. If I recall correctly, this line of tile has 24 by 48.
Yep, I believe so too.
Inch tiles. And we could upgrade that to basically double the size of the tile if that is something that people would like to see to keep the same look and feel, hopefully, and same color scheme, but reduce the amount of grout joints that exist.
Right, and I would echo that. If we can use the larger tile, it does reduce the grout joints, but the material itself, having the tile there, is a lot about the durability, about this material in the heaviest used places. Your public corridor, the bunk room corridor. These are going to be very heavily trafficked and need to be withstanding that use and abuse that we know happens in such a station. So if we can get the agreement that a 24 by 48 is acceptable to the group, that's what I would ask for.
So I've seen some firehouses that look like tiles that were like, pretty good sized tiles, like 5 feet or bigger, or 4 feet or whatever. That's kind of what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this would be 2 by 4.
Yeah, the ones that I saw were good 4 feet, 4 feet wide. They looked like 4 foot by 4 foot. I've seen them in a couple firehouses. Really cuts down on the grout lines.
Right. I would ask Shannon, and this is what do we know about the materials that are available in the price point that we've got? I think to go to a larger format would change the cost significantly. So I shy away from that a little bit because we do know that when you get to such a large tile, it takes many more people to put it down. So your upfront cost of that installation is higher. You still get the same durable material, and you may you're cutting down on grout joints, but the cost of the labor to put it in is a significant cost.
Yeah, and I don't know off the top of my head what the difference between the cost difference between a 12 by 24 compared to a 24 by 48. I mean, we're only jumping up a little bit, but off the top of my head, I don't know that cost. I can ask the rep that, but off the top of my head, based on like my dealings with this rep and this manufacturer in the past, I can't imagine it's going to be a huge difference. I can also look up the size of the grout joint because I can't imagine it's going to be a large one. And if what we would propose to do is if we're going to do the 12 by 24 tile, I would say we could do a gray grout. We're not going to do a white grout. It's not going to be something that really stands out. I mean, if that grout gets dirty, it's gray already. And I mean, I know some people, Katrina, I don't know if you've done this before too. I know some people, I believe we had said this, using an epoxy grout, it's easier to clean.
We typically do use epoxy grout.
Okay.
But Shannon, you were proposing a 24 by 48, correct? The chief was asking about a 4 by 4.
I can take a look at the sizes. I'm pretty sure this collection, it comes in a large amount of sizes. But again, what Katrina said, the larger size we do, the more they're going to have to cut down.
And it will take more people to put it in. You know, if you imagine for each tile that's a 4 by something that's large, you've got 2 or 3 guys just setting that tile, and if they get something wrong, they got to pull it back up. And when you've got the 12 by 24s, which we've been largely going to towards over the last 5-10 years, those are much easier and are still in the ability of a single person to put down and set and keep moving.
The largest tile size offered in this line is the 24 by 48 tile.
Okay, that's
So
what I
that's the
thought.
largest we can go without finding a brand new product and going through this whole process over, I would say.
I'm gonna be honest, typically, within a good price point, that is gonna be the largest tile we're gonna be able to see. That's anything larger it's gonna be a very specific collection and it's gonna bump the price up a significant amount. Going with Katrina, I do think a 12 by 24, I think I think it's adequate unless, the only other thing I could say is you just go to you do just a polished concrete and then eliminate tile altogether, but that also gives the space a completely different look.
Okay.
From a maintenance standpoint and durability standpoint, what is better, tile or a polished concrete? That is, I think, the concern the firefighters have.
Katrina, do you want to weigh in on this one, or do you want me to kind of give my?
I have a couple of thoughts on that, Chief. Thank you for asking the question. As we were talking about that, I was trying to think of what are the other alternates to having a tile with grout joints. You could have the polished concrete floor. The pattern is going to be a bit different because when you get close to doors and openings and so forth, the machine that is used to polish and grind the floor can't get close to the doorways or the wall even, and where there are corners, it's going to be uneven. I will say that the color, if there were any color on the polished floor, fades away after a certain amount of time. I've seen that on a number of projects. So as we're seeing those age, I think the earliest one we did was about 10 years ago, and it is, no, yeah, it is exactly 10 years ago, and it faded fairly quickly. Of course, that was in areas that had some sunshine, so that was some of the concern. In addition to having polished concrete floor here, another alternative could be an epoxy floor with an epoxy base. Since we are bringing epoxy in the project anyway with the bays, having a small area done that way, and this could translate to the kitchen as well, you could have that material in the bunk room corridor as well as the kitchen. They do touch each other, and that's a possibility.
Something to add is that in general, polished concrete is still known for being slightly porous, and if you spill, it will soak in and stain. Tile, specifically this full color body tile, does not do that nearly as much as I would say polished concrete does. And although polished concrete has no seams, or if it has seams, they're minimal, it will have cracks eventually. I think that would not be as durable of a solution as tile.
Yeah, that going back to kind of going off of what you said, Adam, this tile is a color body, which means the color, it goes straight through. So you won't say, God forbid something does happen and it does chip, you drop something large on it, that color is still going to be right there. It's not, I've seen a color body tile like this chip before, and it's still the same. It's the same color going all the way through, the tile. And a lot of the other municipal buildings that we have worked on, we do use tile. And to go off of kind of the concrete, having the feel of concrete, it changes the feel of the space. And personally, I work in an office where we do have polished concrete in the office, and I personally do not like walking on it. Every single day it's very hard to walk on. That's just my opinion with having concrete in kind of a living area. It's very hard to walk on.
Can you
Shannon, if
a little bit about
I may.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah, I just wanted to add. So Rebecca from Technon, and I apologize. I am out on the road, so I hope you guys can hear me, and I am unable to join via the video. But I feel like we're getting a little into the weeds here. I think from a finish standpoint, I think the appearance is probably a little bit more of the focus. I think my initial feedback to the sizing of the tile is whether or not that larger format would cause a potential cracking concern. I think a 2x4 is probably the largest format we would recommend, but I think we're kind of diving into some weeds. So I'm not sure if the general appearance is appropriate or if we need to revisit that, but I just want to make sure we keep the conversation focused.
Yep.
So if I can, as we're talking here, I'm getting text from some of the firefighters that brought up the concern about concrete versus tile, and it seems to be the consensus is larger tiles that you've been proposing instead of the 2x2s would be better. They did have wondered more about the epoxy floor. I don't know if that's appropriate to have in this conversation or maybe a conversation outside of the committee.
Okay, Chief, I just want to make sure we understand that the commentary that you've received about the 2x2 tile, which you see on the right-hand side here, where it's the public bathrooms and the bunk and office bathrooms. I think it's an easy change to make it a different size, a much larger tile in those rooms. We do have floor drains, but essentially the bed that the tile sits into can be locally sloped to those drains, and you're just going to push and squeegee the floor into the drain. So that's not a problem, making those tiles larger and reducing the number of grout joints.
Does that seem to be the consensus, is maybe just going with a 2x4 tile, not going into such a large format where there could be potential install concerns, cracking of that large format slash, custom fabrication, but just increasing the size of that tile, but maintaining that aesthetic? I mean, we can definitely have a sidebar conversation if we want to look at a sealed concrete version or an epoxy floor versus the tile, but I just want to make sure we have clear direction.
I personally feel that the larger tiles that you proposed, and not the gigantic ones, but the larger ones that you've worked with, I think would be appropriate and fine for the fire department. My personal opinion, I don't want to, the firefighters have their opinion. My personal opinion, I've worked also with concrete in buildings, and it does fade. You see track marks, and I'm not a big fan of the polished concrete myself.
Okay. All right.
And I think I would echo that. And again, I can't see faces, but we recently did something similar with polished and sealed concrete, and it is definitely less forgiving of a finish, especially during construction. So I think, Shannon, that sounds like clear direction, but Chief, we can definitely follow up with an email just to make sure that we have exactly what you guys are looking for.
Okay. Just for the record, that was Rebecca Hopkins from TechCon weighing in. Okay.
Would you like me to continue?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, great. We did touch on this a little bit. Katrina had mentioned in the public restrooms, we would end up using this. These 4 tiles are all in the same, they're in the same color line. And so what we were doing is, because we are sloping to drain in those areas, the best tile to use when sloping to drain it would be the 2x2. So we were proposing doing that. I did write a note that we can, in the area that we are sloping to drain, we can just use the 2x2, and then everything else can be a larger scale tile. So the dark tile would be in the public bathrooms. The lighter tile would be in the officers' bunk bathrooms. And then I just put a reference image here as to where we are using the sealed concrete.
Okay.
Ooh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you.
Just to recap, based off of the notes that we took on the last meetings, this is the decorative lighting that we had agreed on, or it seemed like everybody had really liked these fixtures. So in the bunk bedrooms, we have just in the bunk bathrooms, we have it would be just the mirror and then the 2 side lights on the side, just give a little bit more of some personal light. In the bunk bedrooms, we have again your own personal reading light. Over in the conference room and right above the dining table, we have a very slim linear. In the public restroom, just a small light right above the mirror. So mirror would be here, this light would be right above. This light, this pendant right here would be in the bunk corridor hallway, in the admin and waiting hallway, as well as going down the bullpen in that hallway. That would be leading to the day room. And then just an image of the track lighting here that we would like to use in the museum area.
Any questions on that by anybody? Okay.
Shannon, I think that track lighting that you mentioned in the museum area, were we using that anywhere else, or it was a slightly different fixture?
No, we're gonna also try to we're also gonna try to reuse it, just like a portion of it. We're gonna try to use that in the training room, just as kind of a presentation light on anyone presenting up there. And then we're also looking to use that in the day room. We're thinking it'd be nice to display the ladders over on, there's the wall in between the day room and the exercise room. There's the door, and there's a large area of wall where we'd like to display either the ladders. I believe some people have seen that in some renderings that we had sent, and these would kind of be the spotlights on the ladders.
Think you were going to use it in the museum too?
Yes, we're looking to use it in the museum. The museum, it'd be a larger fixture. It'd be a long rectangle that would follow the entire area of the museum, so that say you want to switch anything out, you can rotate the light to be able for it to be flexible. If you would like to switch a picture out, or I don't know what else, a ladder or whatnot, you can rotate that light so it's flexible with what you want to display in that area.
Okay. So the reason we need to sort of come together and vote this as a bundle, even though there might be some minor changes between, the fire chief and personnel on size of a tile, is that the Tecton needs time to put the specifications together. That takes a fair amount of time. There's a lot of products at work here, and then go out and make sure the products are available and get that going. So that's why we're presenting this at this time. Chief, any further comments on what they're proposing? I think you've worked through it all pretty much, except for a couple of small things here.
No, sorry for taking up the time. I think we're good with the slight changes that have been proposed to the size of the tiles. I think you've answered the questions. Like I said, durability and maintenance. The real concern is how easy is it for the firefighters to keep the floors cleaned and polished, because we take a lot of pride in making sure that we have shiny and very nice looking floors. So That's the concern. It's, you know, it takes a lot of work to keep stuff up this clean and maintained, and they just want to make sure that it's the easiest that they can have, but still be appropriate. Thank you.
Perfect.
Understood.
So is
Thank
there a
you.
motion to accept the display products as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Is there any further discussion on that? Right.
Which, if I may,
Go right ahead, Peter.
I just had a quick question regarding the backsplash material of the kitchen. If that-
We actually hadn't gotten to that sheet, so I wasn't sure if we wanted to wait. Until we
Okay,
got to
never
that.
mind.
No, it's okay. It's fine. I know there was some changes on that, so I know we need to discuss that.
How many more sheets are there?
It's just these two, so 1 and 2.
Great, okay.
2, we're keeping it simple today.
I'll stand down.
That's
Okay. You can remove that screen, Shannon, if you want to. Hey, are you ready to vote on this?
So,
Yes.
Butch,
Are we going to
just
go over
voting
the
on
rest of the
first-
materials?
I was gonna say, would you like me to go over the rest of them, or did you want to just vote on the first sheet?
Well, we can take them all as one. Why don't you go through them all?
Okay, I'll continue then.
Okay, since we have limited time for myself to be involved, I did also see the commentary that came from the firefighters about the backsplash, as Peter was just mentioning. I think that is an acceptable change, and the color selection for whatever is done with that, particularly we're talking about in the kitchen area, the backsplash that is between the lower cabinets and the upper cabinets. Instead of just having a sheetrock wall, we were planning to have tile on that wall. The original suggestion was a kind of brick pattern, as you can see in this rendering that Shannon is sharing. But the desire that we've seen is to make that a solid single surface material, so that there aren't grout lines and things to clean. I understand that, and actually I think that's a great idea and would make some things very much more simpler in that area. You've got one piece of something that goes up on the wall and it's there. The coordination of outlets and so forth, we can work out those details and can be worked out in the construction, but the selection of colors, Shannon will go over, but I'm on board with going with the quartz surface backsplash in the areas where it is not the stainless steel behind the cooking unit. And I think those were the areas that we were talking about.
Right. So what you had just seen in the rendering, this is the it's the 3x12 tile that we had shown you before, but as Katrina had said, we can switch, so it is a seamless quartz countertop, and then going up into a seamless quartz backsplash. We can definitely look at what colors you'd like to do for that. I know there was a comment we obviously don't want to go a bright white, but we don't want to go very dark because it's going to make that space feel kind of heavy. So we can definitely find that happy medium with a warm white with a little bit of grays in there. We can look at possibly some veining or texture to really hide any type of possible stain that could happen on that. Although I will say that quartz is a very durable material, hence we would like to use it for this application. So this is the quartz that we were looking at. A cream and gray color. It has the reason that we had grabbed this quartz just because some of the veining in it is a nice gray, and of course this image does not show it very well. And it also has a little bit of some brown veining that will go nice with the wood that we have. If we'd like to go darker, we can definitely look at other Grouts. I don't know if that was a unanimous decision that we wanted to go a lot darker, Katrina, or
Well, I would say I was just looking at the links that were sent in the email today. They are kind of by and large a bit darker, some of them with red fleck in them. One
okay.
of, you know, so I think there are options there. We don't need to necessarily have the exact color today, but we want to make sure that we are understanding what they want and the flavor, and we can go and pick that color in a subsequent meeting, side meeting, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the intent
Katrina, I
is
was
that
just
we understand the material.
Yeah. I was just going to add that. I think that just a reminder to the committee that the real important approval item here is the type of finish and kind of what we're carrying as that basis of design, manufacturer and finish typology. The color can be tweaked. So if we need to look at darker or lighter colors in certain areas, that is definitely something that can be a little fluid as we pin down the exact design. But it's more important that we want an epoxy system, for example, or we want this tile, and that be approved. That's more important than necessarily if it's a light gray or a dark gray.
Yep, agreed. Perfect.
Thank you.
I have that written down. The other decision was this is the wood tone that we'd like to use for the ceiling system, and then going down into that wall system. This is also the wood tone that we'd like to use for any casework, cabinetry, so your uppers and lowers. Although I know in that email there was a discussion that we wanted to change it to just a wood painted gray, which we can certainly do if that is the final decision.
Well, I think it's still, if it's still the wood cabinets with a stain, it could be a dark gray stain.
We could do a dark gray stain, yep.
Versus a laminate. I know we stayed away from laminate
Yep.
casework because that's not going to hold up in this case, and I just want to make sure the committee understands that that was the discussion. It's wood cabinets, but with a stain, and what we're hearing is color. So we can work with the color with the firefighters and get it to the right place.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops. All right. The other tile, so wall tile, let's go. Wall tile 1, we are placing this in the public bathroom, and based on our last discussion, we had decided to do the wet wall from floor to ceiling on the wet wall, and then on other 3 walls, we're going to go up about 48 inches just to an adequate height for being able to clean that area. Wall tile 2 will be in the bunk bathroom. So again, we'll probably end up doing this floor to ceiling because that is where the showers are. So this will be everywhere, and we're proposing for both of them doing a gray grout. Within the last couple of years, it's a lot easier to do a gray grout, and that gray grout actually pops very nicely. If you'd like to see a reference image, we can certainly send one along, but it's a lot easier for cleaning than if we were to do a bright white grout. Our paint colors. Again, I apologize. This is a white. It's not necessarily a cream. Unfortunately, whites don't really show up very well on computer screens. So we have our PT1, which is our general wall paint throughout the entire space. Most of the walls will be the white color. PT2 we have as an accent color within the bunk rooms, an accent color in the exercise room, and then in the IT space. PT3, again, an accent color. We can put this in the training room as the ceiling color. I know we discussed doing darker ceilings wherever we do have that open ceiling. We can go with PT3, or we can go really dark with the ceilings and go with a PT4. Either one would work and look really nice. PT4, we have this right now. It is just labeled as open ceilings, and then in the training room, our presentation wall. It'd be nice to have that presentation wall as the nice charcoal gray, and then our our accent color as the green. We have it in the training room niches. I know the chief had said instead of doing a red in there, it'd be great to do the green, and then also the green in the bunk rooms. I just want to show you. So the bunk room colors. Let's see if I can get this. We've got the green, gray, and then the wood, if I can. It's a very nice, warm, natural palette in those rooms. Next two images are just the two ground face CMUs. We have the white, which is the main CMU color in the day room, and then going into the exercise room, and then the bottom block would be this darker color, and this it would, like Katrina's saying, it'd be the bottom trim color, and then this would end up matching that dark tile that we did have here. It almost create a nice accent band on the floor. Next, we are showing an image of your fire truck to show the nice branding, our branding stripe that you guys really created and we decided to implement into the new station. So we are proposing doing the branding stripe in that main entry corridor hallway leading down to the museum. I think the final decision and what we're thinking is it wouldn't be nice to do it in the dark gray, just as you have it on the truck. Therefore, because it is in that small hallway, if it's not going to pop too much, but it's going to be a nice subtle wayfinding opportunity leading you down into the museum. And then that will also be done in, where is it? In a window film, so we can actually do the stripe in the window film going across the conference room. So you enter into the space, to the left would be the conference room window, and you'll see that striping. And then right when we hit the wall, it will be that gray striping going down and all the way down to the museum. We're also looking to do that same striping in your admin waiting area, and then in the bullpen area on the office fronts, doing the same striping going around. Our graphic timeline, right now it is only in the public corridor. This is just a reference image. We don't have to do a black and white, but the black and white with that red it's very sharp. This is something that we would work with you to create. It can be one image, it can be multiple images. We can fade the image, we can have wording on here. As you can see in this image, it looks like that red stripe is really indicating the different years. So we can do something very similar to this. The design for this would really happen in CA, a little before CA. We worked with this company before to do this in a lot of projects and everything. It's turned out very nicely. And then last but not least, our wood slat ceiling in the day room, and then going down into that wood slat wall. And Katrina, I couldn't really understand what the change was with this. Are we sticking with a grill system for the ceiling and then grill system going down the front of the wall, or was that going to be changed to more of a linear flat face?
Okay, my understanding from the chief and potentially from his whole group, I don't remember how it was written, I only heard about it I think yesterday, was that in the ceiling it's vertical slats, so they are running overhead vertical slats. And then when it comes down the wall around the TV, I heard that it wanted to be also vertical slats so that there was less of a gap.
Okay, perfect.
To reduce the dusting that needs to happen there.
But also still giving us the acoustic property of the wall.
Yes.
Yes, that's another great Another great factor with changing that there from on the wall from a grill system to that slats, it does give us more of an acoustical factor, and it does eliminate any dusting that you will have to do.
Right. I just want to reinforce the purpose of that on the wall in that room is really to help the acoustics with a hard polished or ground faced concrete block on several walls and a lot of windows and other hard materials on the floor. The acoustics, in order for people to really enjoy the space, you're going to have the chairs that will help break it up. You'll have some of the artifacts like the ladders and other pieces that are being displayed, helping absorb and mute the sound. You don't want it to be so much hard surface. That was one of the important reasons that we went with having that type of surface on the wall in the day room. So I just wanted to make sure that got out there, and I thank everybody for your time today. I unfortunately have to leave the group, so good luck with your discussions and decision making, and I'm sure I will see some of you soon.
Thank you,
Okay, thanks, Katrina.
Thanks, Katrina.
Thank you.
Again, just to note, and we had said this before, we don't necessarily need to make a final decision today really on this, whether it's a grill or a slat or whatnot. It's something that we can put into the specs, and we can change it. It doesn't have, we don't have to work out all the details right now. We just want to really get the picture there. And then last is just the general lighting. We're showing a recessed linears in the training room. And Adam, help me out here a little bit if I forget some of the areas. So we have the recessed linears. We have our square cans. This cove light will be in the corridor hallway to help really highlight and light this. Just instead of using the small cans you see here, we would end up using the nice cove light going down that corridor. We have a pendant linear, and then I'm sorry guys, there's people from the office. And then a 2x2 light, and then this is your fitness pendant or exercise room pendant.
And that pendant would also be in the circulation spaces that have exposed ceilings. Also.
Yes, thank you. Were there any questions?
Okay. So we need a motion to accept the platelets, textures, and materials, knowing there'll be some fine tuning as you put the specs and work with the fire chief and others together. But the bulk and the majority of the materials and colors and textures that you presented will be used. Is that a correct
I'll
statement?
make the motion. This is
Okay,
David.
David, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. Vote it. David Singer, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. Who's next? Chief?
Yes.
Yes. Carol?
Yes.
You? David M?
Yes.
Thank you. Jean Wall?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Okay. Jen?
Yes.
And Jim?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shannon. Great presentation. And you'll have the hardboard at the temporary sometime the first of next week if anybody wants to go by and actually see them, feel them, get a better idea of actually, other than a piece of paper emailed to you, what they are. They'll be available. Thank you very much, both Shannon and Rebecca, for that presentation. Okay, the next item on the list is pre-qual subcommittee report from Neil Joyce.
Which we're still waiting for some of the materials to be returned. So we'll table this item and take it up at the next meeting, please.
Very good. Any questions on that? All right, temporary fire station update. Anything going with that? Chief,
Still here.
still there. Excellent. Okay, the next meeting will be on the 28th at 4:30. It should be a WebEx meeting.
Butch, we have one other item under new business, if I may.
Okay.
Regarding our engagement with Eversource.
Oh, right. That's design. Yeah, okay. Under design, sure. Design
So
developments.
we may have missed it, and I apologize if I'm bringing it up out of order. The city is intending to engage with Eversource in their energy incentive review and engineering program. There is a requirement as a prerequisite to that the city engage Eversource's consultant to begin the design review process and to ensure and assist us in developing an energy efficient building. That will require us to do an energy model, which currently is not owned by the design team scope-wise. So there will be an expenditure of funds from the contingency to both engage the consultant, which is an estimated cost of $10,000 with Eversource, as well as a fee to be determined to develop the energy model for the building, to engage that process as well.
Right. And this has been part of the discussion all along with Carol and Katrina about the energy for the building and how to have some savings there. So this is not new. We've been talking about this for quite a while. It's just now come to a point where you know what you have to do as far as a plan and what you have to do as far as an expense. Correct. Okay. Any questions on that from anybody?
Quick question. When is the next meeting?
It's on the 28th at 4:30 WebEx.
Thank you.
Ready. All right. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Okay. David,
yes.
Butch, yes. Chief,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
David M.
Yes.
Jean, Amy,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
and Jim.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody.